Assalamu alaikum, guys. We are live with another weird things with BizarreTrain. It's your host, BizarreTrain, and he will do little bit weird things with my voice. Can you hear? Yeah, you can hear. That's great. That's great. And I was talking about we are going to do a little bit weird things, like watch some weird thing and we can talk about it. Yeah, and we are going to talk about the ball. If I find some crazy videos, I think if I like want to show you really the crazy things, crazy stuffs, like I have to do something like how like some weird things that can you hear? Yeah, you can. But how about this? Yeah, I think I need a check in my this. I think I deleted this here. Oh my god, oh my god, chatting. Too small. Get it down. Up. It will be small. I don't care where I put it. Maybe we can. Now it's too light. Yeah. Yeah, I think this one is fine, but it's this place is too. My hand is so much reflected. Okay, guys, here we are. Yeah, I was doing some crazy things. Yeah, I'm the crazy bizarre chain. Your host, bizarre. Yeah, today we are going to watch it. This Odyssey because yesterday we missed it. Okay, today we are not going to miss it. Change the scenario. That's great. That's great. But I have to press one button. I think I need to set it in one button, one key. Setup change. Both of them change. Hit it once. Yeah. Where I'm in talking. Okay. What the heck? Let's start.
Odyssey. And the Odyssey is a sequel to the Iliad, and it's a family story. It's a story about a homecoming. And there are three main characters, right? There's Odysseus. Sorry. Odysseus, who is the main character, and this is why it's called the Odyssey. Then there is Penelope, who is his wife, and there's Telemachus, who is their son. And as we discussed when we read the Iliad, Homer is first and foremost concerned about the human condition. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to live in a world of war, of trauma, of tragedy? And how can we overcome this adversity? So the Odyssey is about three individuals in a family, and they're all traumatized, and they're all heartbroken. Okay? So Odysseus is trying to return home from the war, and his problem is that he has PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is very common for soldiers who return from war. They've seen so much violence, they've seen so much tragedy, they've seen so much senseless death that their souls are shattered. and that is Odysseus' problem. Then you got Penelope, who's suffering from depression. And why is she depressed? Because her husband has been away for 20 years. And she doesn't know if he's alive or he's dead. He's probably dead, right? It's been 20 years. There's been no sign of him for the past 20 years. But she cannot bring herself to admitting that he's dead. So she's put herself in a very precarious situation. There's dozens of suitors who want her hand in marriage. And she wants to say no, but she's afraid that if she does that, then she'll be alone for the rest of her life. But she doesn't want to say yes because she refuses to admit that her husband, the love of her life, Odysseus, is dead. In her heart, she feels that he's still alive, but in her head, she cannot justify it. She cannot explain it. It's just a feeling in her, okay? And so her response, and this is what we call cognitive dissonance, her response is just to shut down, okay? She just spends all her time alone in her room. At first she's weaving stuff, but then she just sits in her room, right? And then there's Telemachus. Telemachus, his problem is that he doesn't know if his father is dead or alive. But the man is a legend. This is a man who won the Trojan War by coming up with a stratagem of a Trojan horse. Okay, so he is a legend in this world, and everyone sings his praises. And he's his son, so he's living in his shadow, okay? And he wants to prove he's better than his father. He wants to become a hero himself, but he's being burdened by the legacy of his father. The other issue is that unless his father is dead, he cannot inherit his father's legacy, right? The property, the reputation cannot be transferred to him. Then there's his mother who's just sitting around the house every single day. If she were to get married, she would leave and then he could be master of his own house, right? But she's still around, so he's kind of stuck. At the same time, the suitors are waiting for Penelope's answer, which is never going to come. So they're just in the house and they're eating up all his wealth. So he is just seeing his life wither away, and there's nothing he can do about it. All right? So he is just depressed as well, and he's angry. But all these things are the same thing. It's really one of cognitive dissonance. It's really one of depression. It's really one of trauma. All right? So there's another way we can analyze what's going on, and to think about the soul. And the soul is something that the ancients were really concerned about, because it was really the most fundamental issue of what it means to be a human being. It's something that we don't talk about today, something that we don't think about today, because we live in a world of material science. If we can't see it, it doesn't exist. But for most of humanity, for most of human history, humanity has understood the soul as very present and as very real, and the most significant thing in our lives, okay? So the soul that they understood, let's talk about their understanding of the soul. And this is true for a lot of cultures. First of all, the soul is a very complex thing, okay? It is almost infinite dimensions. There are different layers to the soul. And there's really a part of the soul that is you, okay? That's just you, the person. But who you are as a person is ultimately influenced by other influences as well, by other factors as well, okay? So these influences include your family, okay? Your culture, the history, and and maybe the gods, okay? So again, there are infinite dimensions, and these dimensions have an impact on you. And maybe when you die, maybe there's a part of you that lives on, okay? But there's also parts of you that flows back into these different streams of the universe. Okay, so it's a very complex thing. Now, the soul, another name for the soul that we use today, if you go to psychology class, their name for the soul is the worldview. Okay? So we have a much more simplistic understanding of our psychology than the ancients. The idea of the worldview is just our understanding of who we are, where we came from, and our place in the universe. Okay, and we believe it comes from our memories and our experiences. Okay, and the worldview is important because it allows us to understand ourselves. This is important for things such as planning, right? Only if you know who you are can you actually plan ahead, because then you know what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, okay? It allows for empathy, building relationships with others, okay? And it allows for judgment. Basically, what's good, what's bad, what do you like, what don't you like, okay? So the worldview and the soul are fundamental to who we are. Now, in psychology, what they will teach you is that trauma splinters the worldview, okay? There's something about your experience that is fundamental to your identity, but because it is so painful, you forget about it, or you refuse to see it. And this causes a rupture in your identity, in your coherent sense of the world, which destroys your worldview, okay? And this leads to depression. What is depression? Depression is the inability to act and to think, okay? You don't know what you want to accomplish. You don't trust yourself. You don't know what you like. And so what are the symptoms of depression? You sleep a lot. You find no pleasure in anything. You feel no emotion. You feel sort of numbness, okay? And that's why people, they tend to take drugs, or they just sleep all the time, or whatever, okay? All right, because you're unable to act. And that's exactly what's happening to Odysseus, Penelope, and Telemachus. All right, there's a trauma in their lives, okay? And the ancients believe this as well, okay? There could be a trauma that splits the soul, okay? And it could be a demon, it could be a really painful incident, it could be anything, okay? But it splits your soul. And if you are to recover, then you have to repair your soul. And that's a fundamental conflict and the dilemma within the Odyssey. You have three individuals, Odysseus, Penelope, Telemachus. Their soul has been splintered. And so they're on a journey, their own Odyssey, to repair their soul. And the answer, of course, is each other, okay? Their love for each other. That's what's going to save the world, okay? The love of family. And that is the fundamental message of the Odyssey, all right? And that's why it's such a powerful read. Okay, so let me give you some background as to the plot. So, as you know, the Odyssey begins in median res, okay? In the middle of things, which is to say that a lot of things have already taken place and it happens just in the middle of the plot. Okay, in the beginning, Odysseus has been away for 20 years, and he's stuck on an island with Calypso. Okay, Penelope is depressed and sitting by herself in the room. Telemachus is angry. Okay, and Athena comes and tells Telemachus, "Come with me. I will help you find your father." Okay, so the story starts with the Trojan War, of course. Okay, so remember, Helen has been taken to Troy. She falls in love with Paris. because that's what Aphrodite promised Paris as a prize. And now her husband, the king of Sparta, Menelaus, and his brother Agamemnon, the king of kings, are like, we're gonna raise an army and we're gonna get back Helen, okay? And this is prophesized. This is to be the greatest war in human history. It will make mortals into gods, right? That's why Achilles enters this war, because this is the opportunity for him to prove that he is the greatest warrior in all of human history, and that's why he goes to Troy. Odysseus is also supposed to go to this war, but Odysseus, he's different from Achilles, because Odysseus loves his wife Penelope, and he has a new son, 6 months old Telemachus. So he's conflicted, and he really doesn't want to go to war. But the Greeks need him because the gods have told the Greeks that it is really Odysseus who will win the war, because he's the one who will come up with the Trojan horse, the stratagem that will win this war. So you need this guy, okay? So Odysseus doesn't want to go, but the Greeks insist. So the Greeks send 2 messengers to Ithaca, where Odysseus lives. And Odysseus, what he does is he pretends to be mad. So he dresses up like a beggar, okay? He's a king, but he dresses up really badly, and he's going around the farmland and throwing salt everywhere he goes. He looks crazy, okay? And you throw salt in the land to kill crops. So he looks kind of crazy. But the Greeks understand that this is a man of disguise. He's a man of stratagems. He's very clever. So it's probably a trick. So what they do is they take his 6-month-old son, Telemachus, okay, and put it in front of Odysseus. Now Odysseus is plowing the field and salting the fields, okay? And basically the test is this: if you're really mad, you're gonna run over your son, Telemachus, and kill him. If you're not mad, if you're not really crazy, then you're gonna stop and go somewhere else and save your son. So let's see if you're really crazy. And so Odysseus, of course, turns away and saves his son. And the Greeks are like, ha, you see? You're tricking us all along. Come with us to...
I think in this thing, we are going to learn about like 3 person and 3 mentalities. Okay. Let's see how much we will learn. Right now, I have learned about this expression. Yeah. First of all, I had no idea. I thought that this depression, I was saying depression. I thought depression make people crazy. No, like depression make people like unlike it. Like he don't like anything after that. He love to sleep. He love to do some kind of drug. This is one thing I'm learning. Okay. Let's see how this story will go on. Still, we have more time, guys. A bit. Yeah.
Troy. And so Odysseus has no choice but to go. Okay? So this is why Odysseus goes. He's forced to go. But you think about it, this story doesn't really make any sense. Right? And that's the greatness of Homer, because he's telling us the complexity of human psychology. Odysseus is really, really smart. He thinks ahead, right? He should know that if he were to have this stratagem, the Greeks would see through it really quickly, right? So what he should be doing is hiding from the Greeks, right? Or maybe just moving away. If you really, really don't want to go to this war, you can just run away and take your family with you, okay? Or you know what? Just kill these guys because you're crazy, right? All right, so what this tells us is that, yes, Odysseus really loves his family and he wants to be with his family because he knows that if he goes to Troy, he'll be gone for 20 years. That's 20 years that he won't be able to see his son Telemachus grow up, okay? But at the same time, this is the greatest war in human history. Achilles is going, Agamemnon is going. Does Odysseus really want to be left out? Does he really want to be the one guy who's like a coward, who's like, you know what, I'm just gonna stay home, right? The Greeks will just laugh at him for the rest of his life, saying you're just a pussy, right? You've been pussy whipped by your wife. They don't want to do that. So,
And guys, another thing, Otis is a, like an intelligent dude who can like know what I need to do in the war or in any situation. He's not get like confused in in any situation. He think it, he do it, and Achilles is like he's want to prove it. He's a good fighter, or means he's a great fighter. Let's see more about. And Achilles also want to prove about himself. He's a he's a good fighter, like for his family. Like he want to show his wife, his child that he's a great fighter. That's why he's going toward the Troy.
there's a conflict, right? So what he does is he comes up with a stratagem that allows the Greeks to see through it really quickly and force him to go so he doesn't have to bear any responsibility for what he does. All right? And that is a complexity of the human soul. That is a complexity of our worldview. All right? So he goes to Troy and he has to explain to himself why he's there. And he knows he's going to be away from home for 20 years. 10 years in Troy, 10 years being lost at sea. Right? So his worldview is this. Why am I here in Troy? Well, the first reason is just justice. Right? This is a just war because the Trojans stole Helen. And therefore, the Greeks must avenge the honor of Menelaus. Okay? Second is family. Helen should be with her children. Helen should be with her family in Sparta. We have to return her to Sparta. How would I feel if Penelope was stolen from me? I would want everyone to go fight with me to get her back as well, right? It's about family. Okay? Now, third reason is legacy. Yes, he will not see his son Telemachus for 20 years. Therefore, he has to build him a legacy that will carry him for the rest of his life. If he is in Troy and he wins this great war and he becomes this great hero, then Telemachus himself will be famous as a son of Odysseus. People will respect Telemachus. He wants to build a legacy for his son. He wants to tell his son, this is how you should live your life. You should live a life of honor, of justice, of truth.
It's like Odyssey. He come in the Troy, we're like losing in the 10 year in the sea and 10 year in the Troy. I think he want to prove like some kind of he's doing is the right thing. Like if you are doing something and you have some kind of thoughts, it's right or it's wrong. Then you start telling yourself, yeah, it's right. I'm doing a right thing. It's a justice. It's a family, and it's a legacy. It's like you building. You start building in your mind. These things are important. These things are right. It's still, if you are not right, still you are doing it. These things for the thing that you have created in your mind.
Okay? So these are the three reasons why he goes to Troy. And we have to remember that this is all to justify his conflict. Okay? There's a conflict, there's a rupture in his soul, and he needs to mend it by explaining why he's doing what he's doing. Okay? Because again,
Yeah, like he's making, yeah, I'm doing it, this thing. These things are important. These are not like useless things. That's that. It's like saying yourself lie, and still you want to believe it. His soul is fighting with him. Like he has like two faces. One of his faces says, no, you are doing it wrong. And one is saying, no, these things are important, like justice, family, legacy. These all things are important. That's why you are here. Like making yourself right. You are doing it. It's correct. And maybe you are not correct. Maybe you are not right.
He's abandoning his family for 20 years. Okay, so what's going to happen is this. This is the worldview that Odysseus has when he enters Troy. The problem starts when they win the war. Okay? Because when they win the war, then Odysseus is forced to see that all of these three things were wrong. Okay? He will discover that this war was not about justice. It was just about revenge and murder. It is about family.
Like after when you have done it something, then you find out, oh, what the heck? I was telling myself lie. These things were lie that I created in my head, and I wanted to do this thing. It's weird. We can learn guys from these things. Like sometimes we want to we want these things to become right, but these things are not right. Still, we create in our mind these things are right. What I'm doing it.
It's about destroying families. Because when you win this war, you enslave the woman and kill the husbands. Right? That's destroying families. And it's not about legacy because you've destroyed the Trojan civilization for no particular reason. Because Helen doesn't even want to go back to Sparta. Okay? And this causes cognitive dissonance. And this is what caused...
Like USA went in the Iraq and went into Afghanistan. After that, they fought the war in Afghanistan. They fought like 20 years. Still, they did not get anything. And after that, they start telling themselves, we were wrong. We were wrong. Why did we went there? Like they were saying, why did we went there? First of all, they told their people, we are going for the females. Yeah, females are dying there. We have to help there. They were just creating the fantasy. They want to believe it. These things are there, but no, they just wanted to go there to destroy it, and they destroy a whole thing. Iraq, in Afghanistan. Like I'm just giving you some kind of like how people do it, something, and they after that they done it, then they understand. Oh, why did I done it? This thing? Why this thing I have done it? Oh, then they start telling themselves, oh, that was I.
This is PTSD. Okay, or trauma.
And also in nowadays, in this time, even this time you can see it. Even this time you can see it. That people are saying that why we are fighting with Iran. Like in nowadays, if you go, if you search in the internet about why America is fighting in Iran, like there are two parties. One is saying it's right to fight. One is saying no, we don't need to fight. It's not our fight. Still, they are fighting there. After some point when they finish, maybe I don't think it will end. I don't think it will end. It will create more chaos. That's right, guys.
And so the Odyssey is his journey to repair his soul so that he can go home. Okay, does it make sense, guys? That's what the Odyssey is about. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we are gonna read certain sections. Okay, so this is from the Iliad, actually. Okay, this is from the Iliad, and And so remember, in book 1 of the Iliad, Achilles and Agamemnon have this nasty fight where Achilles is like, screw you, you're a dog, I'm not gonna fight for you ever again. Agamemnon's like, screw you, I don't need you, okay? But in book 2, Agamemnon recognizes that, oh, this is actually a problem because Achilles is the greatest warrior that we have. And if Achilles doesn't want to fight, then that's bad for morale. Okay, we might actually lose this war. So Agamemnon, being stupid, he has this stupid idea. And his stupid idea is this: how can I rally my soldiers? How can I galvanize them into action now that Achilles has abandoned the battlefield? I know what I'll do. I'll tell them they can go home. Reverse psychology, guys, right? Reverse psychology. Because when I say you guys can go home, every Greek will be like, no! We came all the way to Troy to win glory for you, Agamemnon. We're gonna fight to the death to ensure that you get your glory, Agamemnon. We don't wanna go home. Don't make us go home. We're gonna fight, okay? So that's a plan. And of course, it backfires. And when people hear, oh, we go home, they all run away. And Agamemnon's like, he now is caught in dissonance. He's like, what? What? He doesn't understand what's going on, okay? And at this point in the story, the war should be over because all the Greeks just went home. And again, what happens is Odysseus will come and save everyone because he will recognize that Agamemnon is just being stupid, and he will force all the Greeks to return back to their post, okay? All right, so Ivory, can you read, please? Testing his men.
Testing his men, but he only made the spirit race inside their chests, all the rank and file who'd never heard his plan. And the whole assembly surged like big waves at sea, the Icarian Sea when east and south winds drive it on, blasting down in force from the clouds of Father Zeus, or when the west wind shakes the deep-standing grain with hurricane gusts that flatten down the stalks. So the massed assembly of troops was shaken now. They cried in alarm and charged towards the ships, and the dust went whirling up from under rushing feet as the men jostled back and forth, shouting orders. Grapple the ships, drag them down to the bright sea, clean out the launching channels. Shrill shouts hitting the heavens, fighters racing for home, knocking the blacks out underneath the holes.
Okay, so this just shows you how stupid Agamemnon is. Because Agamemnon thinks that his soldiers actually want to fight this war. But all the soldiers are homesick. They're sick of this stupid war. They don't even know why they're in this war. Okay? So the moment that Agamemnon says, you guys can go home, they're all like, we're going to get home as soon as possible. Okay? They missed your wives, they missed your children. All right? So Aphrodite and Hera are up in the sky, okay, Mount Olympus, and they watch us and like, oh my God, Agamemnon's gonna lose us this war. What a moron. And Hera says to Athena, oh, sorry, it's not actually Hera and Aphrodite, it's Hera and Athena, because they're the ones who lost the contest to Aphrodite, okay? But Hera says to Athena, you get down there, man, and you stop this, okay? So Athena rushes down and he talks to Odysseus, okay? All right, can you read?
And now they might have won their journey home, the men of Argos fighting the will of fate. Yes, if Hera had not alerted Athena. Inconceivable. Child of Zeus, whose battle shield is thunder, tireless one, Athena. What, is this the way? All the Argives flying home to their fatherland, sailing over the seas brought back, leaving Priam and all the men of Troy a trophy to glory over, Helen Argos, Helen for whom so many Argives lost their lives in Troy, far from native land. Go, range the ranks of Achaeans armed in bronze. With your winning words, hold back each man you find. Don't let them haul their rolling ships to sea.
Okay, keep on reading.
The bright-eyed goddess Pallas lost no time. Down she flashed from the peaks of Mount Olympus, quickly reached the ships and found Odysseus first, a mastermind like Zeus, still standing fast. He had not laid a hand in his black-benched hull, such anguish racked from his heart and fighting spirit. Now close beside him the bright-eyed goddess stood and urged him on. Royal son of Laertes, Odysseus, great tactician. What, is this the way?
Okay, so So everyone's trying to go home, and you would think that Odysseus would be the first person to get on a ship to go back to see his son and his wife, okay? But he's standing there. He's kind of confused, all right? So he's like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Why would Agamemnon do this? But at the same time, it sort of shows you that he actually doesn't really want to go home, right? Because if he really wanted to go home, he'd be home by now. Keep on going.
All you Argives flying home to your fatherland, tumbling into your oar-swept ships, leaving Priam and all the men of Troy a trophy to glory over.
Helen of Argos.
Helen of Argos, Helen for whom so many Argives lost their lives in Troy, far from native land. No, don't give up now. Range the Achaean ranks. With your winning words, hold back each man you find. Don't let them haul their rolling ship to sea. He knew the goddess's voice. He went on a run, flinging off his cape as Eurybates picked it up, the herald of Ithaca always at his side. Coming face to face with Atrides Agamemnon, he relieved him of his father's royal scepter. Its power could never die, and grasping it tightly off, he strode to the ships of Argives armed in bronze.
Okay, so he's now going to single-handedly save the Greeks from losing this war, okay? So, Athena, right? Athena is always part of Odysseus. It's part of his soul, right? The intuition. And his intuition tells him, there's something wrong here. I need to stop this, okay? Also, look at Agamemnon. Agamemnon is frozen. He is so distraught. He's shut down, okay? His brain has stopped working. It's frozen because this is not supposed to happen, right? When he says that you guys can go home, he wanted everyone to say, no, we're going to stay and fight for you, Agamemnon. All right, so it's cognitive dissonance. It's so much cognitive dissonance that when Odysseus takes the royal scepter, Agamemnon doesn't even notice. The royal scepter is part of his soul, right? It's his legacy. It's what gives him authority. He's the king of kings. And Odysseus just takes the crown from him and says, like, no, I'm the king for now to save this war. Okay? And it just shows you how committed Odysseus is to winning this war. He really believes that this war is about justice, about family, about building a legacy for his son. So he refuses to lose this war. All right? Keep on going.
I thought I...
Oh, sorry. Yeah. All right. So, but that's the Iliad, okay? And again, what will happen is that Odysseus will win this war, and he will win eternal glory for himself with the stratagem of the Trojan horse, right? Now we go to the Odyssey. And in the Odyssey, we don't actually meet Odysseus for many, many books, okay? It's only towards the middle that we meet Odysseus. In the first few books, it's a story of Telemachus and his journey to find his father, okay? And when we meet Odysseus, he's a very different person from the Iliad. Remember, in the Iliad, he is trying to win this war. He's very energetic. He's galvanized. He's very heroic. Okay, but when we see him in the Odyssey, he's a changed person. In fact, he's a broken person. So what's happening is that Odysseus and his crew try to go home, and they get lost at sea. They have many adventures, and they get shipwrecked on an island. And he becomes the sex toy, okay, literally a sex toy of a goddess named Calypso. All right. So basically, he's getting raped every day at night, and then he goes to the beach and he cries. Okay. So he's a prisoner of Calypso for many years, and the gods, Zeus, Athena, they get together and say, you know what, we can't have this happen anymore, okay? Odysseus needs to go home. So they send Hermes to tell Calypso, you have to send Odysseus home. The gods will it. And Calypso says, sure, why not, okay? So can you read?
With that, the powerful giant killer sped away.
Okay, so it's Hermes, okay? So Hermes has told Calypso, you have to let this guy go.
The queenly nymph sought out the great Odysseus, the commands of Zeus still ringing in her ears, and found him there on the headland, sitting, still, weeping, his eyes never dry, his sweet life flowing away with the tears he wept for his foiled journey home, since and then no longer pleased.
So he's sitting, he's still, he's weeping. His eyes never dry, and all he's thinking about is the past, okay? This is clear signs of depression, PTSD, okay? Keep on going.
In the night,
And guilt, also guilt something. I've done it and it was wrong. It was wrong. Why I have done it. That was what guilt.
true, he'd sleep with her in the arching cave. He had no choice. Unwilling lover alongside lover, all too willing. But all his days he sit on rocks and beaches, wrenching his heart with sobs and groans in anguish, gazing out over the barren sea through blinding tears.
Okay, so he's a broken man. He's a very different person from the Iliad. Okay, so now the question then is why? What happened to him? All right. So Calypso says to Odysseus, you know what? It's been great having a sex toy, but the gods insist that you have to go home. But you know what? You can choose to be my sex toy for all of eternity. I can make you immortal, right? You can go home, but I can make you immortal, and you'll be my sex toy for all of eternity. Now this is like, that's a really nice offer. I really want to do this, but I need to go home, okay? So he leaves, and he gets to an island. And on this island, he's given a ship to go home. Okay? But before he goes home, as a custom, they host a banquet for him. Okay? And they really don't know who he is. They don't really know he's Odysseus. All right. So during the banquet, what's the tradition is to have a bard sing a great story. Okay? To sing a story of great deeds. And of course, he sings about the Trojan War. Okay? So can you read, Ivory?
Yeah. The strife between Odysseus and Achilles, Peleus' son.
Okay, so the bard is singing about the Trojan War, okay?
How once at the gods' flowing feast the captains clashed in the savage war of words, while Agamemnon, lord of armies, rejoiced at heart that Aeacus' bravest men were battling so. For this was the victory sign that Apollo prophesies at his shrine in Pytho when Agamemnon strode across the rocky threshold, asking the oracle for advice. The start of the tidal waves of ruin tumbling down on Troy's and Aeacus' forces, both at once, thanks to the will of Zeus who rules the world. That was the song the famous harper sang but Odysseus, clutching his flaring sea blue cape in both powerful hands, drew it over his head and buried his handsome face. Ashamed, his hosts might see him shedding tears. Whenever the rapt bard would pause in the song, he'd lift the cape from his head, wipe off his tears, and hoisting his double-handed cup, pour it out to the gods. But soon as the bard would start again, impelled to sing by Phaeacius' lords, who reveled in his tale, again Odysseus hid his face and wept.
Okay, so there's this great banquet, and the bard is singing about the Trojan War. And at this point, you would think that Odysseus would be like, hey, that's me, man. He'd be very proud. But instead, he cries and he cries, okay? This, again, is trauma, where the memories are storing pain in him. So clearly something happened during the Trojan War that made him want to forget about it, that made him resent himself, okay? That caused his soul to be ruptured, all right? All right, so, keep on going.
Odysseus, master of many exploits, praised the singer. I respect you, Demodocus, more than any man alive. Surely the muse has taught you, Zeus' daughter, or god Apollo himself. How true to life, all too true. You sing the Achaeans' fate, all they did and suffered, all they soldiered through, as if you were there yourself, or heard from one who was. But come now, shift your ground. Sing of the wooden horse Epeus built with Athena's help, the cunning trap that good Odysseus brought one day to the heights of Troy, filled with fighting men who laid the city waste. Sing that for me, true to life as it deserves, and I will tell the world at once how freely the muse gave you, the gods, his own gift of song.
Okay, so he's feeling all this pain because of memories of the Trojan War. But he recognizes that if he's willing to go home, because remember, he's on his journey home, he needs to confront his pain. He needs to admit his pain. Okay? So now he's going to ask the bard to sing the memory that he's most trying to repress. He's trying to, he wants to now focus on the Trojan War and really come to terms with his own trauma. Okay? All right. So let's see what happens. Sorry.
Stirred now by the muse, the bard launched out in a fine blaze of song, starting at just the point where the main Achaean force, setting their camps afire, had boarded the oar-swept ships and sailed for home. But famed Odysseus' men already crouched in hiding. In the heart of Troy's assembly, dark in that horse the Trojans dragged themselves to the city heights. Now it stood there, looming, and round its bulk the Trojans sat debating, clashing, days on end. 3 plans split ranks, either to hack open the hollow vault with ruthless bronze, or haul it up to the highest ridge and pitch it down the cliffs, or let it stand, a glorious offering made to pacify the gods. And that final plan was bound to win the day. For Troy was fated to perish once the city lodged inside her walls the monstrous wooden horse, where the prime of Argive power lay in wait, with death and slaughter bearing down on Troy.
Okay. All right.
And he sang how troops of Achaeans broke from cover, streaming out of the horse's hollow flanks to plunder Troy. He sang how left and right they ravaged the Thebes city, saying how Odysseus marched right up to Deiphobus' house, like the god of war on attack, with die-hard Menelaus.
But Deiphobus is another name for Priam, okay? They want to go kill the king. Keep on going.
There, he sang, Odysseus fought the grimmest fight he had ever braved, but he won through at last, thanks to Athena's superhuman power. That was the song the famous harper sang, but great Odysseus melted into tears, running down from his eyes to wet his cheeks. As a woman weeps, her arms flung round her darling husband, a man who fell in battle, fighting for town and townsmen, trying to beat the day of doom from home and children. Seeing the man go down, dying, gasping for breath, she clings for dear life, screams and shrills. But the victors, just behind her, digging spear butts into her back and shoulders, drag her off in bondage, yoked to hard labor, pain, and the most heartbreaking torment waste her cheeks. So from Odysseus' eyes ran tears of heartbreak now.
Okay, so now we know what happened, okay? All right, so what happened was this. For 10 years, Odysseus and the Greeks were trying to defeat the Trojans, and they could not do it because the Trojans were behind a walled city. So Odysseus prayed to Athena for inspiration, and then one day he had it, the Trojan horse, okay? So he sneaks in, so he gets into the underbelly of the Trojan horse along with other soldiers, and then they get into the city, and they're really scared, and they're really excited. Then they're able, at night, to leave the Trojan horse, and then open the gates of Troy, and the Greeks stream in, and they start to conquer the city. And then Odysseus, he is killing, okay? Because it's war, and he's full of adrenaline. But then something catches his eye, all right? He strikes down a soldier, and then a woman comes crying. And she's traumatized at the sight of the death of her husband. And Odysseus is traumatized by this woman being traumatized because he came to Troy to save the woman, right? He sees Penelope in this woman. He says, I came all this way to make sure that Helen could be safe with her husband. And now he just recognized that I just killed someone's husband. But not only that, but the Greeks come and they take her off to be enslaved. So he, by winning this war, has destroyed every single family in Troy. He's caused the suffering of thousands and thousands of women and children. And that is what he sees for the first time, okay? For the longest time, he believed that he was here to fight for justice, to save families, to leave a legacy for his son Telemachus. And now he recognizes, no, this is not a just war. I'm destroying a civilization. This is not a war about family. This is a war about destroying families. And what legacy am I leaving my son? How will my son feel if he knows how I destroyed families like ours? And this causes trauma in him. It splits his soul. And it drives him crazy, basically. And that's the conflict, the central conflict in the Odyssey. Having done so much evil, how can you go home? How can you repair yourself? How can you mend your soul and repair your worldview so that you can live for your family? Okay?
One thing we learned, guys, one thing, especially one thing, I think I have learned one thing. Okay, one thing I have learned. That don't create a fantasy in your brain that you're doing. If you have something, if you are working in something or in anything, like, don't believe it's right. Or create something, yeah, these things are important, these things are important, these things are important. Now I have to fight this fight. Like, it's right thing to do it. No. Sometimes you are creating like this fantasy in your brain because of you want to be right. Like, sometimes you are wrong, still you want to be right. That thing can kill you, guys. Literally, that thing can kill you. You have to learn, guys. Like, we have to learn. Sometimes we don't need to create a fantasy. These things are important. If these things are not making sense, don't do it. Leave it alone, guys. Leave it alone. Simple. Like, it's not. Don't push yourself to do something that's not right, and still you wanted this thing be a right. It's something. Okay. Yes. Yesterday I was told that I was saying you watch this video. Did I? No, I did not.
TorahCafe.com.
I did not.
This mini class is about Nachmanides, the Ramban.
Guys, one thing I want to tell you guys why we are watching these videos, why we are watching rabbis, because nowadays these people most of the time they control the world. We can see it. They control our banks. They control our food. They control our medicine. They control our political peoples, and that's why they control our countries. Because and they have some kind of fantasy that they have to do these things and make his Messiah come there. Okay, that's why we want to learn what kind of things they can do, like for his Messiah. One thing we learned from watching other videos, they want to create a chaos. They want to create a resurrection thing, like resurrecting. When someone died and revive him. Second thing. Third thing, the political people will be godless. They don't have a god. They don't believe in God, or maybe they will not obey the God. Guys, believing a what believing is a one thing, and obeying a God is another thing, guys. Anyone can believe the God is there, but like if you don't obey the God, like you don't believe it. Really, you don't believe it. You just say it. These are words that you just say it from your mouth. They are just words. They don't make any. They don't have any weight in your words. When you believe in something, you show it. These things I believe in. Our political people right nowadays, they don't believe in God. They just say it. They believe in God because their action tell tell it. They don't believe it. Like I told you three things, and when I remember it more things, I will tell you how many things I learned it about. And like there are two sides of Jews. One side, oh, one side is like is waiting for the Messiah, and second side is creating a situation that can go their Messiah can come here. Okay. You can see a you can see a first type of Jews. They like they say that Palestine is there. There's no Israel. These people think that their Messiah will come and he will take him to the Jerusalem. Okay, and second type of Jews that they live in the Jerusalem, and they are Zionists. They call themselves Zionists, and they are more dangerous in this time. They people are like creating a situation that their Messiah can come here. Like okay, like creating a chaos, making a political people godless, but godless, making a chaos, and like you can see you can see here there are so many chaos in this world. You like it's normal thing for them because without the chaos their Messiah will not come. I think I have a little bit here. You can see my hand. I want to show my hand. My hands are so beautiful, guys. You can see how bright are. I'm just joking, guys. My light is so bright, that's why my hands are shining. And what I was telling you guys. Okay, I told you like 4 or 5 things, and learn about more things. How many things they are doing for his Messiah can come. And learn one thing. I want to tell you one thing, guys. See me, see in my eyes clearly. I want to tell you. They are not going to make a temple until their Messiah comes back. They believe their Messiah will build a temple. If someone is saying that they will destroy the Masjid Aqsa, no. Until their Messiah can come, they can't do anything. They don't want to do it. Like they are waiting for it, Messiah. Okay. Let's learn more about it and increase our knowledge in these things because these things make sense. Let's go. I'm this dude who wear a black cap and wear black glove. Guys, these are my these are very good clothes, and it's very. Maybe I can show you if you write something in my chat. Okay, let's start. Let's learn it. And I will be keep quiet until
But I
we
want
learn
to begin
something.
with something from Maimonides, from the Rambam, who we really discussed in the last little segment. There is an interesting tradition about Kitzim. That means to say that great rabbis would make predictions as to when Mashiach would come, when the exile would end.
Yeah, and another thing I want to tell you. Their Messiah will come in the 6,000 years, like according their calendar. Now they are living in the 778, like they are close. And also, one rabbi, that same rabbi told it that their Messiah can come early until they do everything right. Like they can, like I told you those things. If they've done it all things, their Messiah can come early. For Jews, it's mean Antichrist. For Muslims, it's Dajjal. Dajjal means who lies, who's liar. If he says something, he will not do it. It's been like that. Okay?
We have a whole list of rabbis offering us a whole list of dates, usually close to the time that they themselves lived, which of course have come and gone, and there's much discussion on it, which is not important for us at the moment. Maimonides himself, who was officially a non-mystic, but there's a lot of indications, a lot of suggestion that he was in fact a great mystic, had such a prediction. He predicted Mashiach would come at a certain date, and essentially it would be the year 4,976, which would be in the common count, if I'm not wrong, the year 1216. To give you a framework, Maimonides himself passed away in 1204. So he predicted during his lifetime that in the year 1216 there'd be a renewal of prophecy. That's what he put it. A renewal of prophecy. The basis for this claim was a tradition that he had heard from his father, who heard from his father all the way back to the time of the Second Temple. That in the year 2488, Bilam discussed how God's relationship with the world is through the Jewish people. And he says, Ka'es, at a time like this, the world is going to say to Yisrael and to Yaakov, the world is going to speak to the Jewish people and ask them, Ma pa'al kel, what is God busy with? So he had a tradition that said, just as in the year 2488, Bilam acknowledged that God's relationship with the world was through the Jewish people, when the same number of years would lapse a second time, the world would reach a state where they would be asking Ma Paul Kel, they'd be asking the Jew, what is God doing? 2 times 2,488 is 4,976. And Rambam therefore predicted, and again he heard it from his father and his grandfather till the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, that in the year 4976 prophecy would return to the Jewish people. This is considered a precursor, a stage set for the coming of Mashiach. So the Rebbe discussed this on a number of occasions. And the Rebbe, of course, says that although all of these great rabbis predicted dates for the coming of Mashiach, which never materialized, it's impossible to say that their predictions were absolutely futile. There has to be a redeeming aspect, because rabbis of this caliber simply don't make mistakes. And therefore the Rebbe points out that at the time that the Rambam speaks of, 1216, 4976 in our calendar, there was a radiation of Kabbalah which was new and much greater than what had been available until then. There were a group of individuals who were considered very holy men. One of them was actually called officially a prophet. There was Rabbi Avraham HaChassid, Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid, Rabbi Eliezer Ikeach, and a whole series of others who lived around the time of...
Nobody watched our role players. Nobody. Why do a live stream of those Roblox? Nobody watches.
This prediction of Rambam, who were incredibly great mystics. Mystics.
I have done it the live stream and I got like 4 views. How stupid I am going to play again this game and I will get a 4 views in the live stream. Like if I want to play a Poppy, I can get like 1,000 views. Like normally I can get like 200 views. Why I want to be a dumb person and go play a game that will get like 4, maybe 10 views and like in 12 days the Roblox video just got 10, 25 views. I want to show you guys. See it. Like this video. He want to play this game, Roblox, I get like 25 views. I'm not playing a charity here. I'm here to get a views and get a subscribers. I'm not playing a charity, guys. If you want to see something that you can get a views, please don't tell me something that there's a stupid thing. It's a stupid. Can you play Poppy Park? Right now, I have a set a time period of Poppy chapter 4 that you can like go and open the notification, and when I start that live stream, you can watch it. If you don't want to watch this live stream, go. There is a video. No, I have a set a timing of the live stream of the Poppy chapter 4. I did not have played the chapter 4, and I am not going to play chapter 5 until I complete the chapter 4, guys. Okay, go and open my notification. When I play it, you can get a notification. Simple. Don't tell me. So when you play 5, subscribe it. When I play it, you will find out. Open the notification. Okay. I have no idea when I'm going to play it. Okay. One thing is clear. I don't want to give you a date that I will not I will not complete it. Like, okay. Now, please don't ask me these stupid things. You want to get.
And the Rebbe links these great mystics and their lives and their teachings to the Rambam's prediction for the return of prophecy. Because, as we've been learning throughout this entire series of conversations, prophecy and mysticism are really synonymous. In prophecy, the purity and the enlightenment is far greater than it is in mysticism, but nevertheless, what's true, prophecy and mysticism essentially are about the same thing.
Again, it's the last time. After this, I'm not going to reply you. In this live stream, I'm not going to talk about the games. Okay, if you have anything about the fighting or about the Jews thing or anything else, you can ask me. Don't ask me about the games. I will do a game live stream like in 1 hour. In 1 hour, 20 minutes. Okay. In half hour, I'm going to start the live stream of games. Then you want to ask any question, I will reply you. Now I'm not going to reply you. Okay.
So a little while after the time.
This live stream is for getting a knowledge and learning about how well this is going on. Nothing else. We are not going to talk about the games, guys. If you want to talk about the worldly things, what is going on in this world, and what Jews are thinking, or what Christians are thinking, what Muslims are thinking, ask me these kind of questions. not which game I'm going to play. Okay?
Time of Rambam, Rambam himself predicts something would happen in the world that would open up a new era of prophecy. And the Rebbe discusses this and says, there have always been prophets. There's always been mysticism and spirituality. But that the date that the Rambam predicts for the return of prophecy doesn't simply mark the return of prophecy, but it marks the beginning of the coming of Mashiach, which is now 900 years old. In other words, from this point, and so on, begins what will be a revolution in Kabbalah, a re-radiation of mysticism that is, so to speak, an endeavor, an effort at going back to the emphasis on spirituality and enlightenment, which was how things were in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash. In other words, Mashiach is going to come. When Mashiach comes, the Beis HaMikdash will be built. The Jewish nation will return to live in the Holy Land en masse. At that point, spirituality and mysticism will again become the center of Jewish life. Prophecy is going to return. There's going to be a possibility for people to achieve the kind of perfection necessary to be in this state. And the Rebbe says, from the date that the Rambam predicted, that process of the re-radiation of Kabbalah as a stage setter for what ultimately would become the full radiation of Kabbalah, and then how that evolves into Hasidus, which all sets up the coming of Mashiach, begins. So it's a long and arduous, long and slow process, beginning, I guess, 900 years ago. And of course, one of the great personalities of that era was the great Nachmanides, Ramban. The Ramban lived in Spain, and he managed to get himself into some trouble, which forced him to spend the last years of his life in the Holy Land in Israel. The Holy Land he came to was completely destroyed, desolate, completely destroyed by the Mongols and so on. But the great Ramban didn't see desert. He didn't see destruction. He saw what the Talmud says, that if you live in the Holy Land, you become smarter. He saw what the Talmud says, when you're living in the Holy Land, you have a God, you're closer to God Almighty. And his philosophical model of Jewish practice, Jewish life, revolves more than any other rabbi around the holiness of the Holy Land. Because Nachmanides went to the
Both of your people reject the things. I think you are dumb, bro. Literally, you are dumb. I'm not mute. I'm not mute, bro. I'm not mute. What you are saying is dumb. I think you have to read the Bible, bro. The most of the things are common in these religions. If you see Jews or Christians or Muslims, everything is common.
Holy Land, and he experienced its light.
I think in these times, Christians are not learning their Bible, and they are just relying on their churches, and churches giving them fantasies, some kind of point. Yeah, I know, bro. You are dumb.
Its
Sorry.
soul. In other words, Nachmanides became a mystic, became in effect, on some level, the idea of a prophet, by moving from the diaspora, moving from Spain to the Holy Land. And he therefore pounded.
Just tell me how much you have read in your Bible. Tell me. How much you know about the Bible? Bro, there's no anger. You have some kind of fantasies. Even you don't read your Bible and you are saying I'm angry. I did look like you were talking, but I did not hear anything. Might be delay on video. Yeah, it's been delay. How can we have this discussion? Yeah, we can have a discussion normally, bro. you want to talk about like this, I can talk this, okay? I'm just showing my action. Like, I want Christian that need to read their Bible. Bible says so many things good and you don't listen it. Bible says don't eat frog, you eat it. I can't say anything more. Bible says God is one, you say God is three. How can I say something else?
Away, reminds you and reminds you and reminds you again and again and again and again about the holiness of the Holy Land, and that all the mitzvahs that we do in our entire religious life that we're doing today is considered to him almost a rehearsal for how things are going to be when Mashiach comes. And what's interesting, he received Kabbalah from the Rebbe Israel and Rebbe Uziel, the disciples of Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nor that I mentioned in the previous class. He wrote a book, a commentary on Chumash. It's considered one of the last things he wrote in his incredibly successful and prolific life. And in the book on Chumash, there's finally mysticism. In his works of halacha, his interpretation of Talmud, you don't see mysticism. But in his commentary on Chumash, you see a lot of Kabbalah. Because at this point in his life, he'd become expert at Kabbalah, and he incorporated it into his commentary. And he writes in the introduction something very odd. He says, I'm including secrets of the Torah, and I'm telling you up front, you'll never understand them. Don't even attempt to understand them because you'll be wasting your time. So imagine a man tells you, I'm writing a book, and I'm including sections of the book that no one can understand, so don't even bother reading them. And of course, you scratch your head and you say to Ben Damakuli, if nobody could read them, what's the point of publishing them? And yet Ramban does exactly that. He tells you, don't even bother figuring it out, and then he puts it in his book. Now, since the time of Nachmanides, which is a very long time ago, Kabbalah has radiated and expanded and deepened. And it is quite possible nowadays to study the Nachmanides Kabbalah and understand it. In fact, there's a number of complete commentaries on the Nachmanides work of Kabbalah, bringing forward the Nachmanidean form, which is quite vague, quite abstract, to the I guess, a lesser level of mystic. But Nachmanides writes, I'm incorporating Kabbalah into my work, although I don't expect people to be able to understand it. To give you an example of Nachmanides' mysticism, I'll just give you one, okay? We read in the scripture, read in the Tanakh, read in the Bible, that God rested in the temple, in the Beis HaMikdash. Which,
how the heck? One thing I don't want to understand, like, God, how can rest? Who have created me and he's resting? Then I'm dead. And then I'm dead. He's resting, then I'm dead. Because in this world, everything rely on the God. Even air, even like a leaf is dropping from the tree is also rely on the God. Jews and Muslims. Bro, now I am 100% sure that you are living in your fantasy. Bro, stop living in your fantasy. Go and read. Like, Christians have fought with Jews. Like, when Salahuddin captured the Jerusalem, there was no Jew in the Jerusalem. And he told, we need Jews. He bring the Jews. Who is fighting with Jews, bro? That's why I'm telling you guys, Christian, please. Like, I'm begging with you, I'm begging. Please read. Why you're not reading? In Quran, like in first word that came on the Prophet ﷺ, Ikra, means read. Why you don't read? Like right now you can search it on Google. How many fights has happened with the Christian and Jews? Thank you for it. Come on, please read.
Creates a very, very big controversy. How can God be in time and space? If God is in one place and not in another, how does the other place exist? It's a terribly controversial question. And so much is...
I want to tell you guys, I'm not your enemy. I'm just telling you, just stop living your fantasy, guys. Read. Why you don't read? Enjoy your day. Why? That's so bad. That's my Christian brothers.
been written on this question. And the question ultimately becomes, what is the meaning of God dwelling in a house? So the first question is, how can you say God is one place and not another? The second place is, how can God be concentrated into a visible form? How can you see him? How can God be concentrated into a physical space? And so on. So here again, you have a debate between philosophers and mystics. The philosophers will tell you that in the Beis HaMikdash there was no presence of God. There was the presence of the Shekhinah. But the philosophers hold that the presence of the Shekhinah really is like an angel, a created form, like a cloud, that's not godly. It's not God. It's not even godliness. It's a created being that's representative of the fact that God is here. In other words, if you went into the temple, according to the philosophers, you couldn't see God. You couldn't see God in the temple, just like you could not see God anyplace else. It was that in the temple there was a presence, there was an energy of something which is not God, which is called in the holy language kavod nivra. Kavod nivra means a created form of honor. As a
That almost he said Holy Ghost. Like then he find, oh, this word is not right. This word is not right. That's why he use a holy language.
opposed to an emanated form of honor, and so it's supposed to be a light of God that's supposed to be representative of his presence. So Rambam, many other philosophers, when they talk about God resting in the Beis HaMikdash, have to argue that there's no way that means that God is sitting in the Beis HaMikdash. He's either everywhere or nowhere. It means that there's something representing him in the Beis HaMikdash, be it an angel and so on. Nachmanides says, the mystic says, no, there is a concept of divine light. Godliness, as we call it. Godliness is different than God. That's a reflection of God. And because there is a concept of godliness, there is a concept of God's presence in the Beis HaMikdash. God's presence in the Beis HaMikdash is not simply an angel or a cloud that is a gestalt that's representing him, but there's actually a light or enlightenment from godliness which is present in the Beis HaMikdash. This is one of a series of examples, of many examples, of Nachmanidean mysticism, I'm just going to finish with another thought which is very, very interesting. And that is that in the introduction to his commentary on Chumash, the Ramban makes an observation. And the observation is that when you read the biblical narrative, it reads like a story. God is speaking to Moses. And of course the question becomes, if God is speaking to Moses, who is saying God is speaking to Moses? Who's the narrator? Who's the storyteller? So the Nachmanides introduces an idea called Shlishi HaMedaber, the third person. The unknown principle that's the narrator of God speaking to Moses. And the Nachmanides doesn't say much on it, but Chassidus very, very thoroughly analyzes and develops those few words of Shlishi HaMedaber and makes the following explanation. That God is telling the story of the Torah, including telling the story of God speaking to Adam or to Abraham or to Moses. Because the idea that God speaks to Abraham or to Moses or to Adam is a revelation. It's a form, if you will. It's making himself available to them through some kind of a form. The narrator who is speaking the Torah is God as he is above that form. In other words, the names of God are...
Yeah, he's right. In this thing, he's right. But they have changed the book, guys. They have changed.
Employed in the Torah to describe God speaking to man. The one telling the story of God with a name speaking to man is the unnamed God, is the truth of God, which is even higher than a name. So in this case, We're finding an example in the Torah to describe God speaking.
It went on my head, guys.
A revelation. It's a form, if you will. It's making himself available to them through some kind of a form. The narrator who was speaking, the Torah, is God as he is above that form. In other words, the names of God are employed in the Torah to describe God speaking to man. The one telling the story of God with a name speaking to man is the unnamed God, is the truth of God, which is even higher than a name.
Is he saying angels are God? I'm not understanding. Bro, I have no idea which kind of language do you have written. I have no idea. I have to do a translation. I will understand. Like, is the unnamed God is the truth of the God, which is even higher than the name. Means, like, the middleman is the angel, because God is telling angel, and angel is going to toward the prophet. Thing is how he can say the angel is. That's so weird and so confusing for me.
So in this case,
Like, what I want to learn it, he's not telling it, guys. Literally, he's not telling it.
we're finding an example in a Ramban, in a Nachmanides, who not only speaks of the names of God in the Sefiris, but he speaks also about the formlessness, the nameless God that's higher than the named God, if you will, which is the source, which is the basis for the meeting between godliness and man as described in the Torah. And this is just a couple of thoughts and words about the Ramban. In our next section, we'll visit the story of the rediscovery of the Zohar.
Yeah, yesterday, where did we end this one? I think we had. Yeah, this one.
And I'll go blind my whole neighborhood. If I get mad at someone, I'll just blind them and I'll write checks out. What's the value of an eye? $1,000? All right.
Abhay says what no one else will about it is other religions.
Right? Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to go blind all my enemies and here, just give out some checks. Sin in Judaism is something that might be a bit different than it's viewed in other faiths. One way to sort of paint the picture is kind of looking at the root of sin. In both faiths, we believe that the first sin was the sin of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The results of what that sin was, and
No, I don't want to watch this. I just want to learn about how their mind works. In the Messiah.
the way in which the Talmud lays out the history of our people as we near the year 6000, the 6,000 year period is meant to parallel the 6 days of creation. God created the world in 6 days, rested on the seventh. So the Talmud learns from there that the world will exist for 6,000 years from Adam, and the 7,000 will be a time of where every day is like Shabbos, right? Like the eternal Shabbos. So this every day in the creation model is like 1,000 years of our historic time. So if you sort of calculate that, every 1,000 years as a 24-hour period, let's say, okay, So then every 42 years or so, every 42 and a half years or so, is another hour on the cosmic clock, like where we are. Right? Because remember, each day of creation, as it's described in the Torah, parallels a 1,000-year period. So every 1,000 years is like, if you want to know what's a cosmic hour, you can divide it into 24. So it's about every 42 years, 42 and a half years or so, is another hour on the cosmic clock. So where are we holding right now? What's the Jewish year on the look on the calendar? 5775. 5775 out of 6,000. So we're holding Friday afternoon. 5750, 1990 was midday. And now we're 20 years later, so we're almost at 12:30. We're midday and a half. So that was 1 year. 1990 was 1 year on the cosmic clock. Let's take it back a cosmic hour. 42 years before that is 1948. Anything special happened that year? I don't know. Something happened, right? Whatever. Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, we know our math people. We know our history people. Whatever. We don't necessarily have to use it as a rule of thumb as tracing back every 42 and a half years or whatever before that. But the idea is that every day in the creation model is meant as a part of a cosmic clock. So we're here Friday afternoon. Okay? The truth of the matter is that just like anything else, on Friday afternoon, you're not supposed to wait until the sun actually goes down to start Shabbat. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to take on Shabbat a little bit early. It's a mitzvah, actually. To take on what? To actually accept Shabbos, to take it on earlier than Shabbos comes in. It's a mitzvah.
Okay, means start your work before it comes. Like Shabbos, I think it's some like a Eid or something. Holiday, I think holiday is Eid.
Right? Let alone the preparations for Shabbos, and that if you want to eat on Shabbos, you have to prepare on Shabbos, and everyone's busy cooking Friday afternoon, all the preparations. What happens Friday afternoon in a Shabbos house? All the preparations start getting crazy. Everything starts getting fast. Right? Everyone wakes up, the morning, Monday through Thursday, it's just talk. Sunday through Thursday, I should say, it's all talk, it's theory, it's, okay, who should we have as guest? And it's, what kind of food should we have? What kind of menu? It's all sort of ethereal, right? Friday afternoon, you walk into a Shabbos observant house, there's hustle and bustle, people are mopping, people are showering, the whole house is crazy. Everything speeds up. And so the same thing on our cosmic clock, the way that everything takes place and everything transpires, we're operating on this cosmic clock, on this cosmic speed up. When Mashiach comes, one of the great things that we will be privy to is that all of nature, we will see the godliness in all of nature. Meaning we'll see how science, the deepest depths of science, will confirm the deepest teachings of Judaism. The teachings, the inner workings of Jewish mysticism will parallel what they find in science. And we see traces of that already taking place. So, as secular knowledge...
Guys, these posters are so weird, like demon, some kind of demon has. Where their tongue is out.
increases, and as Jewish knowledge and proliferation increases, we see also a speed up. And as Mashiach gets closer, it only gets faster. Something, what's very interesting is that the modern, when Europe got the idea, started looking at the idea of the scientific method. It's a man by the name of Roger Bacon. Okay, so Roger Bacon, I don't know if that's their name, Bacon, whatever, but just saying that's his name. So he lived in the 1200s, okay? And that was the beginning of the 6th millennium, the year 5000 and on, the 5000s, right? We're in 775 years later. So in those years, that's when we reached another cosmic sort of point where science and religion sort of are coming on emerge. In the same era, you had a philosopher named...
Why they believe that like science will rocket, science will be crazy when Messiah comes? Why they are relying on the science? Something they need. That's why they are relying on the science. Oh, science. Science will be this.
Thomas Aquinas. It's not a Jewish philosopher, but also he was of the ideology that spirituality, it's like even in the non-Jewish world, the idea that spirituality and science should somehow converge, that they should overlap, they should be part of the same idea. After all, God made the universe and God created the Torah. They can't contradict each other. One is they're just different expressions of the same thing. And when Mashiach comes, that will be actualized in the most
Maybe you have changed it. That's why these things will not match it.
prominent and palatable way. So the Zohar actually makes an amazing prophecy. It's very rare that a Jewish text makes such a clear indication of what's a coming. So the Zohar says, just like Noah, in the story of Noah and the flood, that when he was 600 years old, the flood waters began. So he says also, so the Zohar says as well, that in the 6th millennium, meaning the 5,000-year time, in the 600th year, just like in Noah experienced a flood, in the 600th year of the 6th millennium, meaning the year 5600, just like Noah experienced a flood with the waters from below and the waters from above converging, so too says the Zohar that from that time there's going to be a flood. Not a flood of waters, and not a flood that engulfs the world. After all, God promised He's never going to destroy the whole world again with flood. It's not going to be a flood of waters. It's going to be a flood of knowledge. And a flood that begins like a trickle and then becomes an unstoppable rampaging tsunami. So on the secular calendar, 5600 is around the time of 1840, where all sorts of revolutions are going on in the world. You have Industrial Revolution, it's just after the American Revolution, the French Revolution. The world was changing en masse. Interestingly enough, Newsweek magazine wrote in the year 2000, there was an article that when did the modern era begin? 1820. So right around that time period. Even Newsweek magazine picked up on it. So the Zohar says around 5600, around that time, use that time as a gauge, that's when stuff's going to really start picking up. Both in science and in Torah. We see that from then, the scientific discoveries have been astronomical. And as time progresses, and as each year goes on, things are moving faster and faster and faster. Think about how slowly things moved up until, let's say, even the year 1900. From the Garden of Eden until 1900, if a person wanted to go somewhere, they used horse and buggy. They used chariot. You could have taken someone out in a time machine from 3,000 years ago and stuck them in the 1700s or the 1800s, and they really wouldn't have that much culture shock. They really wouldn't have that much. A few different outfits maybe, a few different, this one rules this one now. But overall culture shock, not that big a difference. Take someone from 1950 into 2000, 50 years of the culture shock of their life. Tell someone that they could talk to anyone around the world at any time on their pocket phone and see them. And it's free. Or 2 cents a minute, depending which plan you get or whatever. Right?
Send them a document.
Right? At any time around the world, you could send a document, you can talk to them face to face on your portable cellular phone that you have unlimited data for, if you have the right plan. Right? From the Garden of Eden until 1900, people were, again, horse and buggy. Then 1903, Wright brothers come along. They make an airplane. Right? An automobile becomes popular. Right? Beginning of the 1900s. Beginning of the 20th century. 60 years later, we're putting men on moon. Things are speeding up. Things are getting fast. From the Garden of Eden until the mid-1800s, you couldn't even. You wanted to express yourself. You wanted to send someone something. Snail mail, letter. That was the only. Then came, telegraph, telegram. All these things, and now at the instant, at a faster than we can even think about getting something there. Okay, send it to me. It's there, on your portable device. No need for fax machines anymore. No need for home computers anymore. You have everything you could ever want. The world's knowledge at the tip of your fingertips. Stuff's changing. Stuff's speeding up. It's Friday afternoon. Everything's speeding up. Thinking of the Torah. Not that the sages that we have today are bigger and better and brighter than they ever were as sages, but think about how ubiquitous Torah has become. Before the 1800s, someone wanted to get their hand. How many books did people have? How much access did people have to learning? To Judaism? You had your rabbi in your town, okay, with the books that you had in your library. Traditionally, Jewish books were made to be large, right? Why are the editions of the Talmud and the Code of Jewish Law so large? They need big print? No. It's because several people were sharing them. We didn't have lots and lots of copies. Right? Look, traditionally, you see a volume of the Talmud, you see a volume of the Code of Jewish Law. It's large. Since those are so fundamental to Judaism, okay, so when people came to the synagogue, you had 10 men sitting around one book. You needed a big book so everyone could see. And everyone's sitting around, so you had to be even able to read it upside down. Now, a person has access to any Torah class on any topic from any rabbi around the world at any moment on their cellular device as well. Torah is ubiquitous. It's been translated into almost every language under the sun. It's accessible anytime to anybody. So as knowledge, both in secular increases, it also increases in the Torah. And they go together. The Gaon of Vilna, and also more contemporarily, Lubavitcher Rebbe, said that as technology increases, that all of those things are means and are signs that the timing is right. Because as technology increases, information is able to be sent faster. Science and scientific discovery are expressions of what's going to be when Mashiach comes. Because there's always a parallel in Torah of what's happening in the secular world as well. So on the good side of the coin, we discussed a little earlier the kind of the tough things that are common, but also the good things as well. How many medical discoveries are made every single year? In fact, the medical books, the doctors say that by the time that they're getting ready to publish their book, it's become obsolete. Right? They have to rewrite it. Or change chapters or rewrite things. So things are changing so fast for the good, and the other way as well. There's such a break, such a dichotomy when we look at the world. We oftentimes focus on the bad. And we oftentimes hear mostly about the bad. Why? Because bad sells. Right? Got to be a 24-hour news network. Right? There's not 24 hours of news to talk about. Well, we better make some stuff up then. Right? And since trouble sells and will make you turn in, right? We're not going to talk to you about
why they are relating Torah with the science. Like science make tarakki. How can I say it in English? I don't know. What is the word? Like science will increase. I think increase. No, it's not a correct word. Yeah. If science make more discoveries, it means everything is getting faster, 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 and they are getting closer to their Messiah. I think that's why they are. That's why they are like in the science field. Yeah.
the great job that all these kids did, or that this doctor who saved this amount of people, or this experiment that they're working on which is helping people, or this charity work that this group did. Who's going to watch that? People want, your kids could be in danger. Tune in at 7. That's what people are looking for. And that's what sells. So that's what we get. And so we're bombarded by negativity, when in reality, on the other side of the coin, there's just as much, if not more, positivity happening in the world. So whenever we hear about the world turning on its head for the negative, we have to know also that God creates everything. Zeh lu'umat zeh. The book of Ecclesiastes, the book of Koheles, tells us God creates everything one opposite the other. That when the world has this amount of negativity in it, right on the other side of the coin is positivity as well.
Okay, guys. We are
All right, when's
going to
Mashiach coming?
end the live stream on the YouTube. Yeah, and I'm going to do something else. I will be back with a game. Then I am going to do a live stream of game again. Guys, bye. See you soon. Okay, guys.